Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I'm a historic dressmaker and antique textile collector, and today I'm going to walk you through some of my efforts to try to salvage and repair this incredible hat from 1915. If you're familiar with my Instagram Virtuous Courtesan, you'll know how much of a love I have for the 19 teens. If you're not familiar, what I can tell you about the teens is that it's the first time that you see true modernity in clothing. It was a time of great experimentation. They were playful shapes, playful colors, and that's what I love about it, is this like quirky sort of experimental feel. I was very fortunate to be able to find this hat. Because of its condition issues, it had been thrown into a box lot of salvage and it was sort of at the bottom. And I was digging through the box and I found it, and I just knew that it was a really special piece, something that I really wanted to have in my collection despite all of the issues that it has. So now I really want to show you some of the details of this incredible piece. Of course, what you're seeing is some of the damage that the hat has, but look beyond that for a minute and just see that what it's made of is it has this really beautiful China silk pleated front, and then the back of the hat is this peaked bicorn sort of shape done in this most beautiful aqua deep teal silk velvet. This is a beautiful shade of velvet. I absolutely love it. The hat itself is constructed of a buckram wired base, which you can sort of see because a lot of the stitching has come undone. So buckram is a stiff woven fabric used by milliners, and that's how they would have created the base shape. The wiring helps to give it some of the shaping as well. The milliner would have then covered that frame with the silk velvet and with the China silk in the front. This basket weave front is actually made up of one piece of fabric that's been manipulated to have this effect. And this would have been fabric that the milliner could have gone and bought professionally, which was done by a plater. And to do so, what they do is they make a positive and negative out of cardboard. They put the fabric on the inside and they then heat it so that it keeps this shape. It's an extremely labor intensive and very technical process, and not one that I can recreate myself. But what I want to do is make a facsimile of this front using a different technique that I think will have the same feel as this hat without being the exact replication of it. In addition to the pleating, what you are seeing are two of these great little hat pins that have been put on here. At one point, they would have had rhinestones throughout. You can see they've left a discoloration behind them. This one's actually broken. And so I'd like to try to get these freshened up a little bit and put them back on my hat. I try very hard to work in a process of do no harm. So although I will be putting a new frontis piece on the hat, which is a period correct way of trying to restore something, I will not actually be removing any of the original pieces. Everything will be left underneath. And therefore, if I want, I can actually take off all the work that I've done, put it back into its original salvage condition that I found it in, and have it be as is. So before I start my process, I'm going to start by trying to pick the best materials to replace the front of this hat. Because it's May of 2020, everything is closed, and so I have to work with what I have on hand. So I've chosen 3 fabrications that I think are good, better, and best for trying to replace the front. My favorite of the 3 options, which is the least close to what is originally there, would be to do a layer of silk organza over a layer of true silk lame. By layering these 2 pieces together, you get this really beautiful, deep, rich teal color that I think has the same tonality feeling as the velvet that's already there. I would choose this option, except that because I'm not removing anything, I'm a little concerned about the grin through. And I also want to keep it a little bit closer to its original state. And so I'm going to save this idea for something in the future, but I absolutely love this. Second fabrication that I considered is this absolutely beautiful silk satin that I have in my supply stash. I love this because the color is a pretty close match to the original. It feels really great. What I don't love about this fabrication is that it's extremely heavy, and the China silk original was very light. So I am a little concerned that once it's pleated up, it won't have the same look to it. And so I'm keeping this as my second option. What I've decided is my best option is this silk shantung that I had in my supply. This is actually a leftover piece from the gold dress that I made a few years ago. And what I think is perfect about it is it has a really nice weight to it. It's not too heavy, not too light. The color is a really close match, albeit a little darker than the original fabrication. My big concern about this is it's very narrow, so I hope that it's wide enough to be able to recreate this. But I'm going to try it out, see how it works, and if it doesn't, then I'll go to option B or option C. So I've decided to try to replicate the basket weave feel by using smocking. Smocking is a way of achieving texture on fabric using pinches and pleats that can give you sort of a sculptural feel. And there's a smocking technique for a basket weave that is similar but a little different from what you're seeing here, and that's what I'm going to start with. So in order to do this basket weave smocking, what I've done is I've created a grid on my fabric with 1-inch increments, and then I'm going to create a cross grid of just doing the lines in the opposite direction. And I'm going to mark along the length of the goods in 1-inch increments, like so. So once you have a grid, then you mark along the lines. You'll do diagonals going in one direction, skipping every other one, and then I'll do diagonals going in the other direction, skipping every other one. And it's really important to mark your fabric in advance while doing smocking, because as you start to pleat up the fabric, you'll actually lose some of your visuals of where you are. So this helps to keep you on track as you work. So now that I have my grid worked up, what I'm going to do is work my way across all of the grid and pinch together the left and rights wherever you see the diagonal. So I've already started my needle here. I'm using a cotton thread, and I'm just going to pinch this together. To smock that together. And then I'll move to the next one. Pinching that together. And what that does is this is the front of the fabric. It creates this little pleat, and then when I do it in the opposite direction, it's going to create a facsimile of a brickwork effect. Now, thanks to the miracle of a little camera magic, I'm able to show you the completed pleating. This actually did take me a few hours and a few Netflix shows to be able to do, but I do think it has a nice similar feel to the original hat, and so now I'm going to attach it on. So now you can see I have my smocking completely closed in at the bottom here, so it's pretty secure. The original fabric is still underneath here, and what's actually great is that this smocking will help to protect the original fabric so it doesn't get destroyed. And then I'm just going to cover it with my new fabrication and stitch it down. So now I have the top stitched down. It was very helpful that this was already open, but of course I have the sides to deal with. But if you look at the original, which is under here, all they did was just tuck it in and stitch it down. So I'm going to do the exact same thing by trimming up my fabrication, slipping it underneath there, and stitching it down. So after a little bit of experimentation, I found that these two size rhinestones work the best. The left one is a little bit bigger than the right, and I think it's sitting a bit too high. So I'm going to go with the one on the right here and use those for filling in on my rhinestone. And now we can see them with the rhinestones in. And these are antique rhinestones, although antique rhinestones are extremely sparkly, sometimes more so than even their modern counterparts. So can't underestimate how great they're gonna look. And voila. So now we got this great smocking basket weave texture in front. I've got my rhinestones put in. Everything is closed up and nicely finished. And all of the original parts are still on the inside of this hat. It's all been hand sewn, so I could easily come back, take it apart. And there we have it. If you like this video and want to learn more about historic textiles and sewing, please follow me or follow me on Instagram at Virtuous Courtesan. What do you think? Does it work? I have the wrong hair, but I'm kind of into it, right?